Hi there, everybody. This is Wendy Hernandez, and welcome to the Family Law Insider podcast. Today, we are talking about where all the good men have gone. If you ever wonder, are there any other good men left in the world, or where can I find a good man? Well, today we have the expert, the guy who's going to share the secrets with you. And so I have Tom, and Tom, forgive me, is it Tom Pfeiffer?
Yes.
Tom Pfeiffer, and he is the executive editor of the Good Men Project, but he's also an author. He has different projects in the works that he's going to tell us about later. He's working on a nonfiction book that you might be interested in about the 7 signs of a dysfunctional relationship. He's also working on his first novel. Today he's going to talk to us about how to court a good man. Welcome, Tom, and thank you for joining me today.
Well, thanks, Wendy. I think, there's a myth that there are no good men in the world, or there are very few, and so that's sort of what I'd like to talk about today.
Yes, and that myth is alive and well, and I was single for almost 40 years of my life, and operating my life based on that myth for much of it. So I was thrilled to find a good man, but I am looking forward to what you have to say to the women out there who are wondering.
Sure. Well, good men do exist. They're actually everywhere, in my opinion. And in the article I wrote for the Good Men Project about this, how to court a good man, what to do, and what not to do, I say they're everywhere in plain sight. I just cite some examples. The young cashier at the supermarket who asks how your day is going. The guy jogging along the bike path who smiles as you pass by. The weary commuter coming home on the late evening train with a bunch of flowers on the empty seat next to him. I think that one reason that a lot of women who are looking for the good man or a good man don't see him is that there's already the bias or the predisposition that he doesn't exist. And you're not going to see something if you don't believe that it exists. But if you're looking for it, if you look at the way men interact with colleagues and with women and with other people every day, and you're open to the idea that there really are some good men out there, then I think it's easier to see it when it's right in front of you.
Yes. So openness is the starting point then. Openness to the fact that there are good men and good men out there, and the willingness to interact with them or accept them or invite them into your life. Is that where we start?
Exactly. Yeah. Being open to the idea that they exist, that if you go and talk to somebody, that it's not necessarily a huge risk just to have a conversation with somebody, that you might be pleasantly surprised. I also think that the media and pop culture and all of these influences that we're exposed to, I mean, they thrive on stereotypes. They thrive on pushing that little button in your brain that resonates with what you've been told or what you've been trained or what you've been shown, and they get that reaction from you. And so the stereotype out there, well, there are a number of them, but one is that sort of all men are aggressive and violent, but the other one that's really prevalent is that men are stupid. You see so many commercials and so many characters on the sitcoms that show men as bumbling, insensitive idiots, and
Yes.
And we're really not all like that. In fact, most of us are not like that.
Yes. So, Tom, can you talk to me about, can we define what a good man is? Because I think that there's some ladies out there who really, truly don't recognize a good man when they see one, and it might be helpful to have some information about what a good man looks like.
Absolutely. And there's no one and only definition, but for me, the core of a good man, or really a good person, because it doesn't have to be gender specific, but since we're talking about men, the core of a good man is how he conducts himself in his relationships. And the core of conduct is respect. So Is this a respectful person? And you can know that within the first 5 minutes or even less of interacting with somebody. If this is a person who respects you, who respects your being, who respects your space, who respects a boundary that you put up, even if it's, don't call me tonight, call me tomorrow, whatever it is, you can pretty easily determine whether this is a person who embraces respect as the core of his conduct. Now that also cuts two ways. That means that a man who embraces respect as the core of conduct also looks for and really demands respect from a partner. So that quote unquote, that good man is also going to be looking for respect from you in those interactions.
Yes, absolutely. So you said earlier then that you can tell, or that a woman can tell, or a person can tell within the first few minutes whether a person has as at their core of values respect. Are there certain things, clues that a person can look for in telling themselves or talking to themselves about, is this a person who would respect me or a person who respects others?
Absolutely. Many first dates occur in a bar or a restaurant. Someone goes out to dinner. So, how does he treat the waiter? Does he talk to the waiter? Does he recognize the waiter as a person? Does he say thank you when the server pours a glass of water? Does he leave a decent tip if he's paying the bill? So those types of interactions are important. Is he respectful of you during that meal? If you say you want to order something, does he try to convince you to order something else? That would be a pretty bad sign that he doesn't respect your free will or your right to make a decision. If your phone rings and let's say you're divorced or whatever, and you have children, and you say, oh, excuse me, this is my kid, I have to answer the phone. Does he get upset or put out about that? Well, that's not being respectful.
Yes.
So there are signs that you can look for, but I think looking for how he treats others, people other than you, is probably even a better way than looking at how he treats you, because he's probably going to be on his best behavior on the first date. So I think looking at how he treats others, because he's probably not aware that that is going to be examined necessarily in the same way as how he's treating you.
Yes. So, and those are excellent specific examples. I loved all of those examples, and I don't know that I could have come up with those if put on the spot, but really those are things that I look for and that I pay attention to whenever I am dining with somebody, how they're treating, the waiter, the people around them. So thank you for those, Tom. And on the question of respect, do you think it's possible that somebody could put on a really good show for weeks or months or even years and then turn out to just be a person who's completely disrespectful? Because, I hear this story come up where people don't think that there were signs. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think that it is possible. Some people do put on an act to get their needs met. Definitely weeks, definitely months. I don't know about years, because I think there's a point at which someone who is, I hesitate to use the word predator, but someone who is really only looking to get his or her needs met in a relationship and not really concerned about the needs of the other people. Those people do exist in varying degrees of personality disorders, all the way up to what you would call sociopath or psychopath. But I think it is possible. The warning signs that you look for to spot that is when everything seems almost too perfect at the beginning. If you never have a disagreement, if the person is just mirroring everything that you're saying, and where were you all my life, and we're soulmates after the first 12 minutes, and just because you both like white wine or whatever, that God has brought the two of you together. Those kinds of signs are things to look for. I've written other articles about people who sort of will draw you in or suck you into their life, and one of the signs that I mentioned in another one of those is somebody asking for a favor and then rewarding you with a gesture or a gift that is totally out of scale to what you've asked for. So someone says to you, would you mind stopping by and picking up some milk or whatever, and so you do that. You do a small favor, it doesn't really cost you very much, and the person gives you $100 bottle of champagne, or sends this huge bouquet of flowers, that's a tip off that there's something wrong, that something is out of whack.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That would strike me as weird, to be blunt.
Yeah.
So, okay. So respect. So we start with being open to a good guy, and then respect is one of the qualities of a good man. What else is there, Tom?
Well, treating you as an equal, and I mean, and respect is embedded in that, but listening to your opinions and your thoughts, and not necessarily always agreeing with them. And being able to disagree is also part of being respectful. It's when you disagree with someone in a constructive way, you actually respect them enough to say that we can have a difference of opinion about this. But I think that treating the other person and the other person's needs as equal is very much important, and also attentiveness. If this person is constantly distracted and always into something else, typing or texting or whatever when he's talking to you, or can't be bothered by your questions or whatever it is because he's doing his own thing, then that's a sign that you're probably not going to have a partnership that has a lot of intimacy to it.
Yes.
Now, if the person is doing his work, is passionately involved in his work, and draws a boundary and says, well, you know what, I can't be distracted right now. I hear you, I respect you, but now is not the time. That's one thing. But if you're constantly sort of having to ask for attention and you're not getting it, then you're really not being treated as an equal.
And I'm really glad that you drew that distinction, Tom, because this is something that's come up for somebody really close to me, a man in my life who's a friend of mine, and he was just recently involved in this whirlwind relationship, and you know how relationships are when people first get together, they're totally into each other, but then that kind of wears off, and you get back to real life, and you have to do work. And so when my friend started drawing this boundary and saying, listen, I have to get stuff. I haven't been getting stuff done for weeks or months, it caused a problem. So I wondered, how that fit into your idea of giving attention. So I'm glad that you drew that distinction. I don't know if you have anything else to say on that.
Well, I think that side by side with giving attention is the concept of respecting the other person's time. That everybody's time is valuable. That when a person devotes his or her time to you, free time. We all have choices. We all have choices about what do we do with our time when we're not obligated to be at work or whatever it is. And when you make a choice, to me, you're really giving a gift to another person. So recognizing that gift and appreciating that gift, and appreciating that this person is making a choice to be with you, spend time with you, listen to you, invest in you, love you, that creates a a foundation of appreciation in the relationship that I think is very important.
Yes, that's excellent. Thank you for that. That's really great. So, okay, so we've covered respect and attention. What else do you have?
Uh, well, I think that um, at least going from some of the other points in the article that that created the framework for this, we sort of covered 1 through 3 for what the good man wants. 4 and 5 were your preferences. A good man wants to know what you like and don't like because he wants to make you happy. And so if you encounter somebody, who really wants to know what is your favorite food, what types of things do you like to do, and they don't have to be the things that he likes to do too, and he doesn't have to do them with you all the time. But if you meet somebody who really is truly interested in what you enjoy and wants to help you enjoy more of that, then that's a very good sign. And the fifth point was emotional health, that a good man has his own psychological act together and also wants you to have your psychological act together, so that you can have a real meaningful relationship. You won't see meltdowns, you won't see a lot of drama, you won't see somebody moving from crisis to crisis. If the whole conversation on the first date is about this guy's horrible boss and how he's just so, I don't know, he's just in this terrible situation. Well, what is he doing about it besides complaining to you?
Right.
So, and that would be a tip-off that as soon as the relationship sours, that you're the one he's going to be complaining about to whoever will listen. So, I think that a good man, a more mature man, if he's unhappy in his job, he can be honest with you about that, but he can say, so I'm looking for another position.
Yes. Yes. Very good point. And and that goes along with how I try to operate in my life and what I like to see others do, especially in my work as a divorce attorney. That is if there's something that's really upsetting or going wrong, or it's a broken record that's playing over and over and over, rather than keep beating that drum or playing that record, what about changing something in your life and doing something different? So I like the idea that good men aren't perfect, and they have issues, and but they take control, and they're accountable, and they're responsible about how they're going to move forward with that issue. Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly right. And they also won't enable their partners if those things are happening on the other side. So if you're complaining about your terrible job or your terrible ex, or your terrible this, or whatever it is, and that becomes a theme, a good man, I know that there's this whole thing, where sort of men are from Mars, women are from Venus, where women want to be heard and they want to be listened to, and they don't want the man to try to fix it. They just want it to be acknowledged. Okay, I'm with that. But if you are constantly complaining about a situation and not doing anything about it, then I think a truly solid partner will say to you, well, we're talking about this all the time, and nothing is happening. So,
Yeah.
what are you, or what are we as a couple? How are we going to address this problem? Because complaining about it isn't really solving it. So, I guess that sort of works around. A good man is actually going to call you on
Yes.
your stuff if you're not doing anything about it.
Yes. Yes. And having been on the receiving end of a good man calling me on my stuff, I mean, I can say that that's not always easy to hear.
No, it isn't.
Oh, it can be really hard, but I think sometimes it's what we need, as individuals, to bring ourselves to a newer level, or a different level, or realize more fully who we truly are, and then bring that relationship to a different level.
Right. Exactly. A couple of things from the second half of the article because it was 5 things to do if you want to court a good man and 5 things not to do. We sort of covered no drama. He doesn't like
Yes.
drama or conflict. And the second point that I made was no games. And I really can't emphasize this enough. And the pull-out quote there was throw out every single bit of dating advice from the magazine articles. It's worthless. And I really believe this. So I wrote, should I disappear for a few days to make him want me more? No. A good man really despises games. He's forthright and direct. If you like him, let him know that you like him. Ask him out if he's not asking you. If you're dating and he calls you, he expects you to answer the phone or call him back. If he texts you, he's actually looking for you to answer him, not waiting to see how long it takes or whatever. So all those games and all that stuff that gets written about in Cosmo and all those other places, I think that is really the worst advice that any woman looking for a good, solid partner can read.
Agreed. 100% with that. No games.
And then, and we sort of covered no playing the victim too. Sort of falling into that pattern of always talking about how the world is oppressing you or whatever. But the other 2 points in the second part, no worship and no assumptions. A good man does not really want to be worshipped. Or told that he's perfect. He knows that he isn't perfect. And if you put him on a pedestal and you say, you are perfect, you never make a mistake, you're just setting him up for the moment that he actually screws up and becomes human and lets you down, which we all do inevitably. And I mean, the definition of a relationship is with someone is that you're going to be let down at some point. Your expectation is just not going to be met. So if you put him up so high that he can't maintain that standard, or that he's actually having to sort of bring himself down in your estimation and humanize himself, that's a very uncomfortable position for a man to be in.
Yes. And Tom, how would you say that somebody can balance? Because I think that, depending on the guy that you're involved with, something that might be really important to them is or are words of affirmation. And I'm taking that from the 5 Love Languages. I don't know if you've read that book or familiar with that.
I'm familiar with it, yeah.
And some guys just need affirmation.
Absolutely, and women can give that. I adore you. I love it when you do this. You're cute. I really loved it when we did this. I mean, as with any human being, even though we're 30 or 40 or 50 and not children, positive reinforcement is a good thing. Compliment and praise for what you like, and point out, I would say gently and kindly and respectfully what you don't like, and there are all sorts of books that offer language for how you can bring something up that made you unhappy or uncomfortable. When you don't call me for 3 days, I feel,
Yes.
we don't have to go through all of that, but I think complimenting and praising what you do like, so when you do call me, or when you came over that time with the soup when I was sick, or when you sent me those flowers or whatever, I felt special. It's sort of the inverse of that, and so that is an affirmation that I think can go a long way.
Okay, excellent. And I like, I know from my own experience, and I still have a lot to learn, but my husband, it really is devastating to him when he feels as though he has let me down. So what you're saying about worshiping, makes sense. And I'm not saying that I worship him, but it just seems that is a trigger point for him.
Right.
If he feels that he can't live up.
I think that's true, and I think that's true of men, in many ways. I mean, we feel it if there's something that a partner wants from us and we can't provide it, we don't have enough money to provide it, or we can't be somewhere because we have to work and earn a living, that we're using to support a family, a partner, and all that. So that that there's a fear. There's a real fear, I think, in a lot of men of letting your partner down in the stereotypical ways that are associated with masculinity. You know, the provider in particular. And so for women, I think one, you know, asking for something that you know a man cannot afford, and sort of asking for that or demanding that as some kind of proof of love, that is a recipe for disaster. You are going to cut that man to shreds if you say, you know, if you don't buy me or you can't buy me that thing, you know, then you don't really love me. Because now he's caught, he loves you, but he can't afford that thing. So he's now thinking, well, you know, can I not pay my mortgage for a month, or can I, you know, put this other thing off so that I can give this thing to this woman so that she'll really know that I love her. Now, a really good, solid man won't do that. He'll say, you know what, I love you, and I'm not going to get that thing for you. And that's just the way it is. But it still puts him in a very uncomfortable position, and it does get to a good point because he doesn't want to let you down. He doesn't want to be in that position. He's probably, you know, if he's really a good man, he's probably raised with parents where, you know, his mother got or his father got on his case when he let them down or when he let somebody down. So there's that sense of embarrassment and shame and all the things that are kind of associated with that. So he wants to please you and make you happy. And actually, now that I think of it, I don't think this was in the article, but giving him easy ways to do that can really actually build up and reinforce a relationship. You know, would you mind, I don't know, you know, stopping somewhere, it's on your way home already, and just getting me this little thing or whatever, and then actually sending him a reminder, you know, right before he leaves work, you know, just reminding you, you know, that I wanted that thing from whatever, so then he can do it, and so set him up for success. Set your partner up for success instead of failure.
That's great. Really great point. Really great point. Yes, thank you. So I think there's you know, one more thing that you had in the article on the list about basically once a woman finds a good man, you know, how she can hold on to him, or what the good man wants in his partner.
Right. So you know, I mean, he's looking for somebody who is supportive, who is attentive, who hears him. Someone he can really be open with and express his own emotions and feelings and fears and uncertainties. You know, men have all of those things too. Men have all of those emotions. We are so often put in the position of the protector, the one who has to express certainty about something, that, you know, we're very good at saying, oh, yeah, everything's going to be fine, everything's going to be okay, don't worry. But we worry, just like, you know, women do. But I think to create a space, an emotional space where a man feels safe expressing those things is really, really important to having a successful long-term relationship. I mean, if he can say to you, you know, honey, we're having a really tough month, I don't know how I'm going to pay the mortgage this month, or whatever it is, you know, I don't know how we're going to afford the orthodontia for, you know, the child, and you can come back to him and you can say, well, you know, gosh, I hear you, you know, let's think together how we're going to work that out, instead of jumping on him and saying, you know, well, what do you mean? That's something we need to do, and how could you let me down? You know, but I mean, as soon as you do that, again, it's almost like a kind of a castration for him, because it makes him feel so powerless in that situation. And you know, just as when a woman says something, there's really kind of a subtext to that. You know, when she says, you know, do you want to have Chinese food tonight? You know, often she's saying, I want to have Chinese
right. That's true.
But when a man says, I don't know how we're going to afford this, he's not necessarily saying we're not going to make this happen. He's saying I'm worried about this. I'm trying to find a solution. Help me find a solution.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. And that's a good one for me to hear. You know, and anybody out there who's listening, you know, just I guess what I hear you saying, Tom, is just be willing to listen to your partner, your man, and be open and not jumping on their case right away or not judging them, and just have the conversation about what is going on inside his brain.
Exactly. You know, I mean, if you're both working and, you know, you're struggling and he's trying to, you know, make these things happen along with you, you know, then join him in his sort of thoughtful worry about whatever these issues are. You know, I mean, if he can't pay the mortgage because he went off to the casino and he gambled it all away, that's another thing. Get rid of him. But,
yes, totally.
But you know, if it's like most, you know, couples, people who didn't win the lottery are struggling with this stuff, then he wants to have a partner who can hear that without having an angry reaction.
Yes, thank you. Excellent, Tom, and that's a great note to end on. And I want you to tell Tom before we sign off how people can find you, because I encourage you, if you're listening to this, to check Tom out, because he's an amazing writer first and foremost, but you know, he has great insight about relationships. I love reading his articles, and so hopefully, you know, if you're in a relationship or you want to be in a relationship, you will check him out here. Tom, go.
Well, thank you. The primary place, Wendy, that people can find me is on the Good Men Project. It's goodmenproject.com, and I probably write an average of 1 or 2 of my own articles a week. I'm also curating a lot of content for other people. But if you go there and you find one of my articles, or you just type Google, you know, my last name, Pfeiffer, F-I-F-F-E-R, and Good Men Project, you'll find my author page on there. Or if you're on one of the articles and you click on my name at the top, that will take you to my author page, which actually has a list of all of the articles that I've written, many of which are about relationships. I also have a personal blog called Tom Aplomb, A-P-L-O-M-B, and I don't write as much on there as I used to. I wrote every day for about 6 years, but you will find a lot of articles and posts about relationships there, and you can type in a keyword if you want, and lots of things will come up for you.
Okay, awesome. And then I guess we can keep our eyes peeled for your upcoming book on the 7 deadly signs of a dysfunctional relationship, hopefully within the next 6 months, year maybe?
I would say within the next 6 months. It'll definitely be written, and the only question I'm looking at now is how will I publish it? Will I go the traditional publishing route, or will I just publish it myself and sell it?
Okay. All right. Well, I look forward to seeing that book, Tom, and I really appreciate you sharing your time with me today. I've been wanting to talk to you for a while, and I think that this is really helpful to anybody out there who's looking for a good person in their life. So thank you for that.
Great. Thanks, Wendy. Thanks for having me on your show.
No problem. And that is going to do it for this episode of the Family Law Insider Podcast. Remember, we're on your side when it matters most, and I will see you next time.